Let's see. All right. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
All right, fabulous. Let's go ahead and pull that up. All right, so tonight's topic is learning VI and its associated Vim editor, VI Improved. Just so everyone is aware, yes, this deck really does have 247 slides, mainly because there are a lot of examples, and I don't know how to do animations in PowerPoint. Don't judge me. I know VI, not PowerPoint. And see, we're already on slide 5, so no worries, we'll get through it.
Oh, fun.
All right, so back in 1976, Bill Joy wrote the VI editor as the visual interface to the EX editor. He and Chuck Haley had written EX prior to VI at Berkeley, and both editors were eventually released as part of BSD Unix. Later incorporated into all versions of Unix because VI was better than the line-oriented ed editor developed for use on teletypes at AT&T Bell Labs. So VI and Vim are modal editors, meaning that it has different modes of operation. There is command mode, which allows a user to input VI or Vim commands. There's text input mode, which allows a user to input information or text into the document or the file. And then there's last line mode, which allows the user to access the original EX editor commands. These modes are not always visual, and the user is responsible for remembering where they are at within their session. So from a flow diagram type perspective, when you VI a file, you initially start out in command mode where you type keys on the keyboard. Those keys are not visually displayed on your screen, but they are interpreted by the editor to execute commands. Commands A, I, and O, as we'll see in a little bit, get you into what's called text input mode, where you can, add stuff to your document. Escape always brings you back to command mode. And then there's the last line or EX editor mode, which is initiated through a colon, a slash, or a question mark. So you just kind of flow through until you eventually get back out and get to your command line. If you normally use Vim and it isn't there, and I've heard this story several different times, people have gotten so ingrained and in use of using Vim that they forget to try VI when Vim comes back with command not found. VI Improved is better than VI, I do agree. However, I can't guarantee that Vim is going to be on every box, especially more of the corporate type Unixes like Solaris, HPUX, AIX, and that kind of thing. Be aware that most VI commands will accept a number in front of them, specifying how many times that command is to be executed. Most of the time, that default value is 1. However, there are some exceptions. If you make a mistake and get lost in what you're doing, meaning you've typed a partial command, you can always hit escape, which clears the partial command, putting you back into command input mode or command mode, and allows you to start over. So as far as moving around within a document, VI commands Shift G allows you to specify a line number that you go to. If you don't put a number in front of Shift G, it takes you to the bottom of the file, the last line by default. You have cursor movement keys H, J, K, and L to move the cursor one position by default, going left, down, up, and right. Please be aware that not all versions of VI support the arrow keys for cursor movement. The Corn shell never uses the arrow keys for shell history, and if you're going to be using those environments, it's best to learn H, J, K, and L where possible. However, H, J, K, and L are not obvious. So, in a means to remember H, J, K, and L, we've got some mnemonics. J is for jumping down, K is for kicking up. If you want to remember H and L, you need to remember 1990s politics, where Hillary Clinton was on the left and Rush Limbaugh was on the right. So using those keys And remember, back when Bill Joy was writing this editor, we didn't have all the fancy number pads, arrow keys. You maybe had the escape key and some function keys, but it was the normal regular keyboard still. We didn't have all the fancy extras that we're used to using and seeing today. All right, and since we were talking the 1990s politics, I kind of wanted to tell my favorite IT political joke from the 90s. If you wanted to email President Clinton back in the day, you could email prez@whitehouse.gov. If you wanted to email the Vice President, Al Gore, you could email vprez@whitehouse.gov. And if you wanted to get a hold of Hillary Clinton, you would need to email root@whitehouse.gov. All right, so another means to helping yourself learn HJKNL is to install the package BSD games. These are the old Berkeley software distribution games that were written around the time that Bill Joy wrote the VI editor. And in these games, movement of your entity or character or whatever is going to be using the HJKNL key sequence because that's what they were used to using for movement within VI. They were using VI very heavily. Again, it was a better editor to use than the ed editor and was visually more appealing than just doing EX with all the last line type commands. So when you install the package, you then have access to things like Snake, where you go around and you collect money and avoid being bitten and eaten by the snake. So on the screen here, we've got your character, and there's the money you're trying to get, and the snake's hanging out over here. And eventually, as you get more money, the snake gets more hungry and starts chasing you across the screen. You need to exit through the doorway, which is the hashtag or # mark, or the proper name Octothorpe if you've ever seen me before, is your doorway out in survival. So you try and collect as much money as you possibly can and compete for who's in first place. But all cursor movement of this character here is HJKNL. Another game that you could play, robots. You move around and these little plus signs are the robots, and when they crash into each other, they make little junk heaps. And if a robot hits a junk heap, it dies as well. As you create junk heaps, your score goes up. HJKNL for the cardinal movement with some angular stuff with Y, U, B, and N. You can also teleport around and redraw the screen, etc. So as you move around, these guys start crashing into each other, and hopefully you move on to the next level. Again, HJKNL helps with the movement. Worm. You are a worm, your head is the @ sign. As you eat the numbers, you grow by that many. So when you eat the 4 here, you end up growing 4 more tails. The @ symbol does not stop moving. It moves 1 cursor position every second by default. And as you can see, you can get quite long. It is very unforgiving. This game will actually make you learn HJKNL very quickly, because if you run into a wall or yourself in any way, shape, or form, including if I were to hit J right here and jump down, I would have hit myself and the game would have been over. But as you can see, I had gotten up to 181 for my score. Another one, Hack, is a Dungeons and Dragons style adventure. You're supposed to locate the amulet of Yendor below level 20 somewhere and then get back out. So it throws you in a room, and the D there is your pet dog that is your companion. And the question mark will provide help, including your movement commands, which include HJKNL for the cardinal movement positions. And you go around and you explore each level, and you find treasure and you kill monsters, and odds are you end up dying well before you reach level 20, but hey, it's kind of fun. The reason why I bring up those games, though, is because if your boss comes by and you're playing them, you can always tell your boss, hey, I'm trying to learn VI, leave me alone. Anyway, getting into and out of text input mode, now that we can kind of move around within the document, as far as what I normally consider and call the need to know type commands, we have A, I, and O. And just like Unix, VI is case sensitive. A lowercase a will append text after the cursor position, however many times you specify. Again, by default, N is going to be 1 in most cases. Shift A is going to append to the end of line. I inserts text either before the cursor or at the beginning of the line, and O will split open in between two different lines, a new line. So O would open a line below the line the cursor is on, and O would open a line above the line that the cursor is on. And again, just to make sure, escape always returns you to command mode or clears a partial command. All right, so here I am in VI. It's a brand new document. I hit the number 5 followed by I. I then type in the text 1 and then plus and then a space into my file. And when I hit escape, it does it 5 times. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is when I've watched new users learning VI, they sometimes hit some number thinking they're trying to input a number into the text document, forgot that they didn't get into input mode, hit I or O or A, type in what they need to, and then hit escape, and then bam, it's there that many times. And they get confused. Again, this is to reinforce the fact that while it will normally take a number when we're talking about inputting text, we normally don't want to hit a number before that because we're going to get a surprise. Moving on, if I say 7.0 and open a line below the one I'm on, type in the word blah and then hit escape, I get 7 blahs on my screen. That may not have been my intent, but because VI is the way it is, it assumed that that number 7 was associated with the O for open, and when I hit escape, it completes it 7 times. Okay. There's another command we're going to talk about again in a little bit, which is U for undo. If you make a mistake, don't freak out. Just hit lowercase u and undo the last command, and it'll clear what that command had done. All right, so now we've talked about how to get text into a document. To get text deleted or removed from a document, there are 2 commands that you need to remember. X will delete characters, and DD will delete lines. The first D is for delete, and anytime that we're doing something line oriented, you repeat that letter twice, as we'll see again on some of these other commands coming up that are nice to know. So this will help you delete either characters or lines out of your document. Other useful commands, and this kind of rounds out the ones that I consider more kind of need to know. U for undo, and then the dot or the period on your keyboard will redo the last command. I use that a lot whenever I'm trying to like indent by a certain number, a certain number of lines by a certain number of spaces. I'll hit like Shift I and indent some space and hit escape, and then go down a line with J and hit dot and lowercase j and lowercase j and dot to indent the lines I need to get them spaced out the way I want them to. So dot is very useful as far as repeating commands that you have previously run. Shift J is also very useful. It will join 2 lines together, the line that the cursor is on and the line below that one. Again, it'll take a number in front of it. So if you say 5 Shift J, it'll join the 5 lines below the one you're on to the line that you are on. Another interesting one, I don't know that it's technically need to know, but this was a good place to put it, is the tilde key. The tilde key will actually flip case, uppercase to lowercase, lowercase to uppercase. Sometimes somewhat useful. As far as exiting VI or Vim to kind of finish your editing of a document, :WQ, remember that colon will take you down to the last line of your editor session or on your screen. You will see the colon, you will see the WQ. Anything on the last line or the EX mode is visible on your screen. :WQ will write and quit your Vim or VI session. :X is the same thing as :WQ, it's just a little less typing. It saves a character stroke. :WQ damn it, and for those of you who haven't heard this before, the exclamation point is sometimes called damn it, as in do it damn it. :WQ will write a read-only file and quit. So long as you own the file, or if you're root, you can override the read-only permissions and save the file. :Q exclamation point or damn it.
Exclamation mark is also called bang.
Yes, it is also called bang. correct. Um, colon Q exclamation point will quit without saving. If you completely mess up and you are completely lost and you want to just throw away everything you've done, you can hit colon Q exclamation point and quit without saving, and then go back in and try and do it again. Um, these are the first four are EX editor commands. This one down here at the bottom, Shift ZZ, those are capital letter Z's, is a VI command. You will not see any kind of keystrokes on your screen, but it does basically the same thing as colon WQ. However, I am not a big fan of Shift ZZ personally, because too many times I've hit the Control key right next to the Shift key on accident and did a Control Z, which will put a foreground job into the background in a stopped state, and my file has not been saved. So to fix this, I have to pull the background job back into the foreground with the FG command and then save my file properly. So I've kind of gotten out of the habit of using Shift ZZ just because I hit Control too many times. But it is available if you like it.
WQ and the exclamation point are all right next to each other on the keyboard anyway, so once you get used to it, that's pretty fast to type.
It can be, yes. All right, so here's an example. I like to say that VI is a programmer's editor because it keeps you at the keyboard, and once you get used to using it, you get to be very quick. Let's say I'm working on a C program called readkey.c, and I get an error. And of course, I've yet again forgotten to put a semicolon at the end of a statement to end the statement. This time, damn it, it's on line 41. So I VI readkey.c. I get into the file and I hit 41 Shift G and I jump to line 41, and sure enough, there's not a semicolon at the end of that line. I hit Shift A to append to the end of line, hit the semicolon to end the get car function and to end that statement. I hit Escape followed by colon WQ. I write and quit the file, and then I recall my last command and my file compiles cleanly. It's very few keystrokes to get back in, edit the line I need to, get out, and try again. I'm not having to find where's the mouse on my screen, double click on this, that, or the other. It's very quick because my hands are always at the keyboard. All right, so what we've talked about up to here is what I generally consider to be kind of the basics. All right, everybody needs to be able to get in, move around within a document, open the document to the point where they can input new information, delete old information, and save their file. So what I talk about going forward is some more advanced functions and features that you don't really need to know out of the gate day one, but are good to be aware of are there so that in the future you can start using faster techniques, faster ways of getting things done as you get more comfortable with the editor. So other movement commands include capital H, capital M, and capital L, which will move the cursor high, medium, and low on your screen. So if you need to get your cursor up to the top, you can hit Shift H and it'll go to the first line visually on the screen. That's not necessarily the first line of the document. To do that, you would need to hit 1 Shift G to go to line 1. But based upon what's visually being displayed in your terminal session, it'll go to the top line in that visual view, medium, and as well as low. Now, another way to jump within a line is the caret, which is above the 6. Caret is Latin, which means to join together. So that was a joining symbol in Roman days, but that will move your cursor to the beginning of the line, and then the $sign will move your cursor to the end of the line. So again, ways to move around within the screen to kind of be quick about getting your edits done. More cursor movement commands include W, E, and B. W will move the cursor forward along a line, left to right, like normal human English reads and writes. Lowercase w will count punctuation. So if you have semicolons, colons, periods, commas, that kind of thing, those symbols count as a word. unless you use the Shift W version, which is going to just skip to the next white space separated word. And the W command jumps to the beginning of that next word, where the E commands would move to the end of a word, either counting punctuation or skipping white space separated in the case of Shift E. B goes backwards to a previous word, to the beginning of a previous word. Again, capital version, skipping punctuation and only doing white space separated words. One other feature that is has proven to be very critical in some cases for me in programming is the percent sign, which is going to find a matching parentheses, square brace, or curly brace. The cursor has to be on one of those three types of characters, and then when you hit the percent sign, it will jump in the file to the corresponding either open or close parentheses, square brace, or curly brace. This was pivotal back in college for me learning Lisp, which is an artificial intelligence programming language. It uses parentheses like crazy, and it ends up where you're having maybe 12 to 20 close parentheses at the end of your file or at the end of the program to close out everything else that you had to open along the way. So making sure that I had matching parentheses was kind of critical. And if you've never had the joy of programming in Lisp, let me tell you that the name of the programming language stands for lots of insane and silly parentheses because they're just everywhere. But the percent symbol will find that matching symbol very quick and easy. Control plus G, so if you hit the control character and hit G, it will display the file status, including where you're at in the document, whether it's been saved or modified and that kind of thing. Control F and B will jump forwards or backwards one screen at a time. So if you've got a file that's 1,000 lines long or more, you can quickly jump through and view a screen full at a time with Control F and Control B. And then another one that was critical from back in college was Control L or Z dot. Control L or Z dot both redraw the screen. And the reason why this was important is because I worked alongside and both as a lab assistant in college as well as fellow students in my computer science classes. We would send messages to each other's screens, preferably while they were in VI, to make them think they messed themselves up. So from an example of that, let's say I'm sitting here editing a file. It's that readkey.c program file that I displayed earlier. And let's say someone else I'm working with decided to send a message directly to the device I'm using for that other session. So some jerk, I mean coworker, decides to have a bit of fun and they send, haha, messed you up, to my physical device file, dev pts0, which you can find that out through like the who command or the w command, what the device is associated with a particular session. So there it is. I was sitting right here. I get a haha, messed you up. And of course, I'm in command mode because it's telling me down here that I'm in insert mode. So shoot, now what do I do? So it's a good thing that I know that this is only on my screen. I hit escape to make sure I'm in command mode. And then I hit Control L and I redraw the screen, and what was messaged to my screen is gone. Now, this was just a nice little show to show you what could be done, but back in college, we would do things like cat user bin ls and redirect it to their session, and they would get all kinds of bells and beeps because of the control characters in the binary program ls, and their VI session would just be completely toast because it was wiped off their screen. But if they
Also,
knew,
back in the days of dial-up modems, line noise would make random characters on the screen, and you do have to refresh to
yep,
see what you were
it would
actually
happen
editing.
too. You are correct. Yes, line noise could cause random characters to show up, whether they were in the document or not, and knowing how to refresh your session in VI was important, especially if you hadn't saved in a while. But anyway, in this case, I can hit the A command to append to the location where I was at after that cursor, put my semicolon at the end of the C break statement, and continue on where I left off. All right. Moving on to another batch of commands, we have the change commands. Notice that all of these commands start with the letter CC, or the letter C, and in the case of changing a line, like deleting a line, we do CC twice, and that will throw away whatever is on the current line and allow you to replace it with whatever text you want. And if you want to get rid of, say, 3 or 5 lines, you can do 3CC or 5CC, and it would wipe out all of those lines starting on the line that the cursor's on, allowing you to replace that text. You can also use CW. Now we've seen that the W command deals with words. In this case, we can change words either counting punctuation or space separated with the Shift W. We can change from the point that the cursor is at to the end of line using $, or the point where the cursor is at to the beginning of the line with C and the caret, or the rooftop, or whatever you want to call it. Or if you want to change the entire document from where you're at to the bottom of the file, you can use C Shift G. So realize the C is the command for change, and then you can specify how big of a change do you want to make, be it a line, a word, the file, or whatever. A couple of other change type commands to be aware of are the R characters. R is for replace. So I can replace some number of characters with an alternate character, or I can replace and overwrite text with brand new text using Shift R. So an example of those last two, I've got a file that says it has contents don't go to AAA.com or NASA.gov. So I have my cursor positioned over the first letter A in AAA, and I hit 3 followed by R followed by X. So it is going to replace 3 times whatever the cursor's on, the letter X, at which point in time it now says don't go to www.xxx.com, especially at work. So I hit the J key and L over 3 times, and now my cursor is on the G in the word gov, and I can hit Shift R or CW to change the word and put com instead of gov. Now the reason why I specify this one, back in the day when I was a corporate trainer in the 90s, some Mars lander landed on Mars, and everybody was all excited about seeing what that Mars lander was doing right then. And I had someone in class accidentally go to nasa.com, because we're all used to typing .com, which is not anything associated with NASA out of, Cape Canaveral or, anywhere else associated with the government. And of course, it's a porn site. And I'm like, whoa, stop that. And I had to warn people for like a month not to go to nasa.com. It's just one of those things that stuck to my head. So, but I can change gov to com either through CW or through a Shift R and quickly make that edit to the document. All right, going back over delete commands, again, DD is dealing with deleting lines. We can do a DW or a D Shift W. We can do a $, a D caret, D Shift G to delete. If I'm on line 1 and I hit D Shift G, that deletes every line in the entire document. It's all gone, which is one of the reasons why I mentioned the U command earlier to undo a change. If you make a mistake, don't forget about U for undo, especially when you're deleting things. And again, to delete individual characters, you can use the X key. All right, yank. Yank is the first half dealing with a copy operation for copy and paste. So I can yank lines, I can yank words, I can yank to the end of a line, to the start of a line, to the end of the file. All of this data that I make a copy of through the yank command, and realize that they had to come up with another letter because C was already used for change. So I can't use C to mean copy as well as change. Copy made more sense, so they came up with this kind of alternate naming convention to make a copy through the yank command. That data is placed in what is called an unnamed buffer. Okay, we'll talk more about named buffers a little bit later on in the discussion. But the second half of an operation for copy and paste would be the P command for pasting. Lowercase p would paste below the line the cursor's on in the case of a line-oriented copy, like a YY command, or after the cursor in the case of a word, like a YW command. If I use Shift P, it goes above the line that I'm on or before the cursor if it is a word-oriented copy. Again, a copy paste is a yank command followed by a paste command. A cut and paste command is a delete followed by a paste. And one other trick a lot of people aren't aware of, XP will transpose two characters. So an example of that, I'm working with some little program I've called rgrep, and I've got a line 91 error. Dang it, I typed GURP yet again. Can't tell you how many times I have typed GURP in my life. I did it again here. So I VI the file and I jump down to line 91 with a Shift G. Sure enough, there's GURP. I space over or L over on top of the E, and then I can hit XP. X will delete the E, and P will paste after, which transposes GURP into grep. Okay. At that point, I can hit :WQ to write and quit my file, and I run my rgrep command again this time, and it works successfully. I get what I expect to get. Okay. All right. So we've talked about kind of some of the more advanced features. It's time to get into the EX or last line commands. Again, these commands will start with either a slash, a question mark, or a colon. They are visible on the last line of your editor session in your terminal, and you will see what you were typing. So, as far as EX is concerned, to search within your document for patterns, like I'm looking for grep or some kind of word or string, I can use either slash or the question mark to locate patterns in my document. Slash will search from the top of the document going down towards the bottom of the document. Question mark reverses that direction going from where I'm at in the document towards the top. If I need to find the next occurrence, I can use either N or capital N to find the next occurrence of that pattern. N lowercase goes in the same direction, be it slash or question mark, as what I was doing to do that search. So if I do a slash, N is going to continue down towards the end of file. Shift N would reverse the direction going up towards the beginning of the document, reversing the direction I had started in. So in this case, I do a slash grep, and notice that in VI or Vim, I may get highlights over every occurrence of the word. Now I know it's a little hard to see, but there's a little black box around this first occurrence of the word grep here, but it does highlight every other occurrence of grep that I can visually see on this terminal screen through the rest of my document. All right, so I can find it, and if I hit N for next, I would jump from this grep to this grep to this grep, and if I accidentally pass up the one I was wanting, I can always hit Shift N to reverse that direction. But again, N is going to go, lowercase n is going to go in the same direction, in this case the slash command going down to the bottom of the file, question mark would go towards the top. All right. Now, if you don't like the highlights, because you're done looking for grep and you don't need that kind of yellow in your face, you can hit :no H to turn off highlights. Okay, so :no says don't do this anymore, and H is shorthand for highlight. So :no H will turn that off, but I've got more to come on that a little bit later on in the presentation. There are copy and move commands that are available through EX as well. You specify line numbers, a start and end line number being I and J, in either a copy or a move operation to below line K. Special symbols that are available to you here, the % represents the whole file, the $sign represents the last line of the file. So as a short example, we've got 1,5. CO is enough to identify that you want to do a copy operation, and then $sign would copy lines 1 through 5 to below the last line of the document. But we've got some more examples of this. So let's say I've got a document that I've called knock knock. When I'm using the move and copy commands from EX, I prefer to have line numbers visible in my VI session so that I can more easily figure out what needs to get copied or moved from where to where. So to put line numbers visually on your screen, you can do a setting, which we'll talk more about these in a little bit. :set number will turn on line numbering. Now these numbers exist visually in your terminal, but do not exist in your document. But they allow me to easily see what line is where. In doing so, I can then do things like from line 2 to line 6, copy below line 6. So I type :2, 6, CO6. It'll copy lines 2 through 6 to below the 6th line. I could have also, for this 6 right here, put a $sign since that's the end of my document. And it'll copy them straight away. 5 more lines right where I wanted them. I can do a one move $sign to move the first line to below the last line. When I hit enter, it gets rearranged. I can then do a 1, 2 copy 10 to copy lines 1 and 2 to below line 10. And then I can hit Shift G to go to the last line and finish out the joke. Now once I hit escape, I can then do a :set no number to turn off line numbering. Again, no is basically saying turn off this particular setting or this particular function or feature. So in EX mode, I set no number, and that turns off the numbering, and my document is back to the way I would expect to see it when I go into VI. The numbers are gone visually. All right. Finally, we have the EX substitute command. Now this command is a lot like sed for any of you who have ever used sed to substitute patterns in text. This is basically the same thing. You do have to hit a colon to get down to the EX mode, but you specify over what lines you want to substitute, what your find pattern is, and your replace pattern using the slashes to denote the beginning and end of these patterns. And then you've got some options there at the end, G, C, and I, to globally replace all matches on a line. It would only match the first match or only substitute the first match by default unless you use G, which at that point it does every possible match across a line. C would allow you to confirm replacement. You have a choice here, yes or no, and then I, of course, is ignoring case. Please realize for my the lines that I want to substitute on, I can use the % symbol, which represents, again, the whole document. So I can say $%s, which would be the same as saying $1, $$ It's just a little less typing. It would be, my starting find pattern with a replacement pattern and any options I care to use. So as another example, I've got a file here with some names in it, but some of these names need to be fixed. Okay, so I'm going to fix them with a substitute command, and I'm going to do a $%s to look through the whole document, looking for the pattern Dan to be replaced with the pattern Don. I'm going to do it globally across a line, so all occurrences are going to be viewed, and then I'm going to use the C command, or C option, excuse me, to confirm the change for each instance. Okay, so I start out here. Notice that the white part up here is telling me where I'm currently at, the first entry being Dan Backus. I don't want to change that one. That one's correct. However, when I get to Dan Rickles, yes, I do want to change that one. So that one needs to be Don Rickles. Dan Knotts is not correct, so I say yes to that one. Danald Trump, that needs to be changed. Danald Sutherland, that one needs to be changed. Daniel Craig, no, I don't want to do that one. Daniel Radcliffe, no, don't need to do that one. Daniel Boone, no, that one's good. Danny DeVito's fine. Dandy, that's okay, but that needs to really be Don. So yes, I will confirm that change as well, and I have selectively gone through and fixed all the names. Okay. So the next thing I choose to do is for lines 2 through 5, I want to substitute at the beginning of the line. Notice that the caret is an anchor. It's always going to denote in VI at the beginning of a line. I care or choose to insert 3 spaces at the beginning because I want to indent those by 3 because those are the Dons, well, at least in that part of the file. So for lines 2 through 5, I want to insert 3 spaces at the beginning of the line, and when I hit enter, the spaces are there. And yes, highlighting can be a bit annoying at times. Again, I'll get to a quick shortcut around that here in just a little bit. However, one other thing I do want to show you is a substitute where I substitute the first space for a tab character. Notice that it's going to highlight all the spaces that are in the document, but it's only going to substitute and replace the first space with a tab character because I did not use the G option at the end to say globally do all of them. So some of these are going to get indented over a little bit more. And again, highlighting is a bit of a mess. So I do a colon no H to turn it off, which makes it now look a little bit better. However, another setting that we're going to be talking about in just a minute is colon set list. Now what list will do is visually display on your screen a tab character as a control I and the end of line marker as a $sign. If you are troubleshooting a problem with a file, especially some kind of configuration file and or type of program that you're working on, colon set list is going to show you characters that are not normally visible on the screen. Meaning, did you know that there were a whole bunch of tab characters and or spaces at the end of some of these lines? Has anyone ever had a configuration file that was space or tab sensitive, and if there's extra at the end, it messes the config file up, which means the service or whatever it is that you're trying to get to work isn't going to work because there's extra crap there. Not once did we see that those tabs existed at the end of those lines. But with colon set list, I can see them, I know they're there, and I can get rid of them if I don't need or want them to be there. Again, the X key is going to delete a character, including a control character or that tab space or that tab or space there at the end. To turn off list, you do a colon set no list, which turns that feature off, and the file goes back to normal tab spacing. Okay. All right. So now I'm in another file. This one's called Tongue Twisters, and the line that I'm on is a bit too long. So what I've done is I've positioned my cursor over the space between the first sentence and the start of the next sentence. And what I can do is hit the letter R followed by the Enter key, and that is going to split these lines into 2 lines. So it's replacing the space character I was on with the Enter key, which basically makes 2 lines. So then I can L over or hit 5 Shift E to jump to the end of the sentence. I can hit L to go over one more space and do another R enter and split that line into 2 separate lines. So now that it looks visually a little bit better than what I had before. All right. Another capability with the substitute command is to add to the end of every line, and notice here $% is going to do every line in the file. I'm substituting at the end of the line, that's the $sign, a Control-V, Control-M. So I'm adding to this document at the end of every line a Control-M character, which for those of you that have been around a while, you might recognize as being the carriage return character. DOS Windows files prefer to end lines with a carriage return line feed. So if I'm going to be moving this document to a Windows system so that I can print it, I'd need to add a Control M to the end of every line so that I would get a carriage return line feed, which is what DOS and Windows would expect. So with VI and a $%S, I can substitute the end of line marker to add in the carriage return. So when I hit enter, there's the Control M at the end of every line. Now, you may have seen a file that you've pulled from a Windows system and brought into a Linux or Unix box having these Control M's. If you want to get rid of them, it is again another simple $%S doing a Control-V, Control-M. Control-V basically says, give me the verbose or the yeah, I guess it is verbose, the verbose control character that I type next. So Control V and control any other character will give you the actual character control sequence instead of just executing that from your keyboard. So in this case, I can strip out the control M's by doing a $%S, control V, control M, // strips off that ending control M and bringing the document back to the normal Unix preferred line feed character to end the lines normally in a Unix Linux system. Again, if you recall, the $sign is the line feed character when you do a :set list. So you can see where the end of line or the line feed character is at. Okay, so one other thing I'm doing here is something called a shell escape. You can do a colon followed by the exclamation point or the bang character to do a shell escape, meaning run a command like you were at a shell prompt, even though I'm still sitting here in VI. So I can man a command called DOS to Unix, and it'll pull up the man page, basically telling you that there's this command here that will do a DOS file to a Unix file, stripping out the control M character or the carriage return, or if you use Unix to DOS, it will add in that control M character to the end of every line. I've very rarely ever used these commands because frankly, I know how to do it with VI and I'm much faster than trying to recall what the syntax of these guys are. I can just do a quick substitute to either add it or remove it and take care of that myself. But this is showing you a feature of shell escaping out and what you can do if I'm writing a program and I need to look at a man page for an option letter because I don't remember it off the top of my head. I can hit escape, bang, man, whatever it is, and pull it up. And then when I'm done and I hit Q, it drops me back out to where I had initiated the VI session, telling me I need to hit enter or type command to continue. So when I hit enter, it brings me back into my VI session right where I was at. Okay. All right. So environmental settings. Believe me, this is not a complete list of environmental settings that you can set in the EX mode. These are some of the more commonly used ones, however. :set list, again, will give you control I's for tabs and $signs for the end of line marker. :set IC will ignore case. So if you're doing searches and you don't want to have to worry about your search pattern specifying the correct case as it is in the file, you can turn on ignore case, do a search for the word the, and it'll come up any kind of capitalization, lowercase occurrence that's possible. We've seen :set number to turn on or off line numbering. Show mode. A lot of cases in the corporate Unixes, show mode is not on by default. And a lot of people like show mode because it will tell you when you're in text input mode or replace mode so that you know that little flag that kind of shows up in the bottom line is telling you, hey, you're in some kind of input mode. And when that flag is not there, you know visually that you're in command mode and that what you type is going to be a VI command. And if you just jumble the keys on the keyboard, you don't know what you're going to get. Wrap scan. Now this one's kind of an important one to me, and we'll see an example of it here in just a little bit. But by default, in a search within VI, when you're going, say, from a / going from the top of the file to the bottom, when you hit the bottom of the file and you're looking for your search pattern, it automatically wraps from the bottom of the file to the top of the file, continuing your search. My problem with this is I could go through a file 8, 9, 10, 12 times, not realizing that I've wrapped from the bottom to the top, and I'm looking at the same lines I've looked at already. And I just think I'm going through a very long document, and crap, here I am again, wrap scanning around, and I'm seeing the same lines I've seen before. And it takes sometimes, depending upon how much coffee I've had, a long time for me to realize. So I like personally to turn off wrap scan so that when I hit the bottom of the file or when I hit the top of the file searching up with the question mark search command, it tells me, hey, you've hit the top or the bottom of the file. There's no more to search on here. You've seen all of them. So I like turning that one off personally. And then sometimes in programming, I do like show match. It will automatically bounce the cursor to matching parentheses or curly braces. Useful again in programming because curly braces normally deal with kind of like a begin or end statement. Parentheses get used a lot in functions and that kind of thing. So knowing where these guys line up and match is sometimes kind of an important thing to be able to do. And again, to turn any of these settings off, if you have them turned on, you just put the word no in front of it. And if you want to use the mnemonics or the shortcuts like LI for list or IC for ignore case, you can say no in the shortcut and take care of it that way, because personally I prefer less typing. All right, so here's an example. I've done a slash for grep and I follow it by some ends to get the next occurrences. And when I have :no WS enabled, it stops the wrap scan and it tells me, hey, idiot, you've hit the bottom of the file, quit trying. You've found them all, you're done. Now what I can do here if I need to is hit Shift N and go in the reverse direction, and then I would start going back up towards the top of my document, but at least I know where the document ends and begins, and it doesn't automatically wrap me around one direction or the other. Okay, so :set all will give you a view of all of the possible settings you can set with EX. And believe me, there's quite a few you can turn on and off. There's more here than what can fit on this screen visually. Notice the little more down at the bottom of the file or the bottom of the screen. Do I know what each and every one of these settings does and how to tweak them? No. You can man EX, or in the case of some versions of Linux, you need to do a man on section 1P, which is the POSIX commands, to be able to view the man page for EX, which will tell you about what these settings are. Or I suppose if you do a Google search, you might be able to find them that way too, I suppose. Anyway, some more miscellaneous EX commands. We have the :bang command to allow you to shell escape out and run a command. You can do a :R and read in the contents of a file, some other file in the system, into your document, putting those lines of data below the line the cursor was on prior to you hitting the colon. We'll see an example of this in a minute. Or :R bang in a command. It will run the command and take whatever that output is and put it into your file. And then one last thing that you can do with EX is set up abbreviations where you specify a short string which gets translated into the long string anytime that you type the short string and follow it by a space or an enter key. We'll see an example of that coming up as well. All right, so I'm writing a little program. It's a bash script, and I want to check to see if the name entered from the keyboard is the same as the name of this system. So I get to that point in my if condition and I hit escape, and I do a :R etc host name. This will read in the name of the host, the contents of that file, and put it into this file below the line that I was on. So when I hit enter here, it puts Fedora 31, the name of the host, on the line below. Now, unfortunately, this is not exactly where I want it to be. So I can hit the K key to go up a line and then hit Shift J to join the line I'm on with the line below the line I was on. And it pulls them together and joins them together. But unfortunately, it puts a space between the two lines automatically. So in this case, I hit the X key to delete the space, and then I can hit Shift A to continue on with my document or my program and finish it out. So I complete my program, and then I have a little comment block down here to specify when I finish the program at. So I hit escape because if you notice down here with show mode, I'm in insert mode. I can visually see that. I hit escape, I hit a :R bang date, and that's going to do a shell command called date and read the output from date into my document. And there it is. But again, it's not on the line I want it to be on. So I hit the K key to go up a line, and I hit Shift J to join the two lines together. Okay. So that's just some examples of reading in stuff from either other files or other commands and getting them into your file you're working on, again, as a shortcut. It's a lot faster than opening up two terminals and then copying and pasting from one to the other or trying to figure it out and making mistakes. Okay, again, here's another example of going out and doing a man page. This time we're going to pull up the LS man page, and sure enough, I can see it. And I can hit the space bar for the next screen full and Control B to go to back, and whatever I need to view, I can get there. And then when I'm done, I can hit Q to quit. And again, it's going to tell me to hit enter or type command to continue. And when I hit enter, I drop back into my file just like I was at. So again, another useful tool for when you're doing shell scripting. If you need to look something up, you again don't have to open up multiple windows to do so. You can, kind of stay in the one you're in. Okay, now for a segue that we've had enough VI and Vim, admins don't let non-admins use sudo. Yes, this is a 33 slide rant because I'm not a fan of sudo. I never have been. The only good thing about sudo is its utilization of the wheel group to allow me to put people into that group and allow them to su to root when they need to, using their own password, so we don't have to give out the root password to everybody. Admins should use sudo, not non-admins, mainly because configuration mistakes can bite you in the butt when it comes to security, and we're going to see some examples of that. So, having said that, take a look at this etc sudoers file, specifically at this user called test user down here near the bottom. Test user has access to all commands except for things like su, password, user add, user mod, user del, and the list could kind of go on here. To put this in perspective, I'm a storage guy along with being a Unix Linux guy, and at one of my jobs, we had a particular type of storage called ECS, Elastic Cloud Storage. Don't worry about going to look it up. It's by EMC. It's mainly used in medical PACS systems, which are, it's an image archive for things like radiology, cardiology, mammographies, CAT scans, MRIs, that kind of thing. They take those images and those studies and they archive them in long-term storage. The first one of these devices by EMC was a Centera. Then they followed it up by an Atmos, and then they came out with ECS. Well, one of their big touts on ECS was that no one but EMC had the root password. And they said that because it was, it made it more secure than the previous version, which was called Atmos. We got an ECS system in to add capacity to an existing Atmos storage archive that I had. And of course, I'm upset because I'm not root. What box have I never been root on whenever I'm, adminning anything Unix or Linux related? So I take a look at the sudoers file, and what they had for the admin user that they made us use was something along this line where you had access to all commands in the system except for a particular set of list of commands that they didn't want you doing, like passwords, so that you could change the root password on them, that kind of thing. So I looked at that and I personally laughed because that's not secure. Because remember, please, the old axiom, the more convenient, the less secure, okay? Meaning they should have specified what commands I should have access to, not just carte blanche everything except the ones they don't want me to access. Here's why. All right, so I'm in here as the user test user, and I try and do an su or a sudo su minus, and I'm told I'm not allowed to do that because that was a denied command. Fine. So I do sudo vi etc password. Vi was not in the list of commands I couldn't run. So I can run it as root, and I type in my password for test user, and I'll be damned, but I'm in the password file, and I'm in like Flint. So I go down to my test user line, and oh, by the way, for those of you old guys, I don't know if you caught the reference, but In Like Flint was a title of an old, horrible 1967 spy movie with James Coburn. I snuck that one in here because I kind of remember that old garbage movie. But anyway, so I'm in here, and oh, accidentally hit CW followed by 0 followed by escape while I was sitting on the UID field for this user account. Oh, my bad. Surely I can't save this change, can I? Will I do a :W exclamation point? Let's just give it a try, shall we? And oh my, I did change my user ID number because I'm editing this file as root. I wonder what I could do to the Etsy shadow file where the password's kept. Anything there maybe? I don't know. But why go through all that mess of changing UID numbers whenever I can just do a shell escape? Remember, we can shell escape out of VI by doing :exclamation point, and I can invoke any command here that I want because this isn't run through sudo. This is run from the VI session. So I say bash because I just like to get a shell prompt. And I'll be damned, but I did get a shell prompt. See, right there, a # prompt. And when I do ID -A, who am I? But root with a group ID number of 0. I'll be damned, but I'm root. Woohoo! And then when I get done doing whatever it is, whatever mayhem I need to cause, I can type exit and I can hit enter and get back into VI. And well, since I already saved this file, I can just do a :Q to get out, right? And I'm done. And when I tail the Etsy password file just to make sure I really did change it, I'll be damned, but if that isn't still a 0 sitting right there. What do you guys think? Okay. Well, why go through all that mess? I mean, why even mess with VI? Bash was not in the list of commands that I couldn't run. So why don't I just sudo bash and type in my password and I'll be damned, but that's another root prompt, isn't it? And I do an ID -A and sure enough, there's UID 0 sitting right there. I am the root user in the box. So yes, I do understand. I can go into the sudoers file and I can add every editor and every shell. And by the way, mail utilities normally allow you to shell escape out with an exclamation point. So I can put all those in there along with the password command and the user commands and all the other stuff you'd already seen to lock it down so that you can't get into root, right? Well, how about this? What if I edit a file? I'll call it myls. And in this file, I say I want to run su -root. It's a shell script, it's a bash script, and I make this file executable. This file, myls, is not in the list of files that I am not allowed to run through sudo. It's not in the list. So I can sudo /myls, type in my password, and now the reason why I did the su command was to show you previously I was not allowed to use the su command to get to root through sudo, but because sudo already elevated my privilege to run myls as root, root's allowed to run su-. And I get in and I have root access right here, clear as day. I could have just as easily used the bash or any other shell, invoked that, and had it be run as root as I chose to do. What I'm telling you here is never set up a user with access to all commands with an exclusion list. You may as well just hand them the root password. It's horrible. It is not secure. Okay? All right. So let's say I need to give test user access to editing files. There is a program called rvim, restricted vim, that does not allow you to shell escape out. Okay? It prevents you from doing shell escapes. So if I need to allow a user to edit files, I can use rvim here to let them edit files. So I've set that test user up with rvim. However, notice I can still, because I didn't say what files they can use rvim on, they can use rvim on any file, including the password file. And they get in. And Lord, I hate syntax. I don't know about the rest of you, but I do not need to see that many colors on my screen. It's just not needed. but I can go in here and set test user back to user ID number 0 and save the file. Okay. So what you need to do is specify with RVim the files they can edit. All right, so I want them to be able to edit the files under home Oracle conf. All right, so there's, let's say there's file 1, file 2, and file 3 under there. They need access to those files. This user needs to be able to edit them because they do some Oracle work, whatever. All right, so that's how I've got sudoer set up now. Realize, because etc password is not in the list, it's not in that path, I'm not allowed to edit RVim on etc password. Woo woo. So, can I edit file 1 under that path? Yes, just fine. What about shell escaping out? Can I do a :!! bash? Nope, it's not allowed. No joy. Wonderful. However, remember the old security axiom again. The more convenient, the less secure. Never, ever use stars here in a path. Stars are going to kill you from a security perspective, and if you don't understand why, here's why. I can say I want to rvim through sudo /home/oracle/conf /etc/password, and star is going to match the ... etc password just fine. And I'm in, and Lord, I still hate syntax. But if I want to change the user ID number back to 1001, I can. All right.
Wait, did you just jump from the home directory to etc? I missed that.
Okay, hold on. I will go back. Notice in here, in the sudoers file, I say they have access to use the rvim command on anything under /home/oracle/conf. Okay, but I put a star there because I'm being lazy. You don't want to be lazy is what I'm trying to get to. So when I try and do rvim through sudo on /home oracle conf, I can say ... which represents the parent directory, which means it goes up 1 to home Oracle. ... takes me to home. This ... takes me to /. Then I can go
Oh,
down the tree to etc password.
so it's like the dots and when you're seeding.
Yes, correct. It's a
So
path. It's a
you can
relative path.
do dots in paths and make them relative. So you're starting off with an
absolute path of
absolute
/home
path, and then
/oracle/conf, and I'm then using dots because the star will match it. The star here will match anything underneath home Oracle conf, including a ... which is the parent directory.
And grandparent and great grandparent in your
holy
case.
crap.
Like I
Okay,
said,
so you could
the
put
more
a relative
convenient.
path in the middle of an absolute path.
Absolutely, you can. Where have you been, Vince? Who
Wow.
was your instructor back in college, for crying out loud? Oh, wait, you didn't have me for securing Linux systems, did you?
Well, no, I wish I would have had that class, but
Yeah, I didn't teach that one too often. Roger Lyles got that one quite a bit. So when he wasn't available, I was lucky enough to pull that one out of the hat. But yes, don't use stars in sudoers because it will allow you to modify the path into a relative path, and you can get anywhere you want to go in the system. All right. You guys starting to feel why I'm not a big fan of sudo? Because if you're not careful, it will bite you in the butt. Okay. All right, so I changed my UID number back to 1001 because why do I need to have 0 there? I can get in any way I want, right? So here's what you should do. For test user, you specify with rvim the exact 3 files they need to be able to edit. You don't use stars, you don't use question marks, no kind of wildcard expansion names here. You are very clearly identifying these are the only 3 files they can edit, period. Okay? Stars are bad. I know they're more convenient, but from a security perspective, don't do them. All right, so I try and rvim and do my little trick to get the Etsy password. And oh, by the way, it says you're not allowed to execute that file because it's not in the list of 3 files you can edit. Make sense? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that concludes my rant on sudo. Hopefully that woke a few of you up. Anyway, setting default values and making them stick. There is a configuration file you can use with VI. It's actually a part of the EX editor. And when you invoke VI at the command line, VI behind the scenes automatically invokes EX as a part of its startup. So we use the .exrc file in your home directory to set the settings that you would like to have set every time you start VI. So for me, things like I want to turn off wrap scan because I hate wrap scanning. I want to turn on ignore case and show mode because I don't care about case when I'm searching. I just want to find those letters in that pattern. All right. So you put your environmental EX type commands in .exrc, and every time you invoke VI or Vim, it's going to be set that way every time. So here's my personal .exrc file. First statement I have is my set statement. Set ignore case, no wrap scan, show mode, and no show match. I'm not normally a big fan of the matchy with the parentheses and the curly braces. If I want it on, I'll turn it on. Some VI system or some VI commands on some systems have it on by default. I like to have it off, so I just set it and I make sure it's clean the way I want every time. And then I specify some abbreviations. I abbreviate DLB for Daniel L. Backus. I abbreviate bprog for #bang user bin bash, kprog for the corn shell, and pprog for Perl. So these are the programming languages I normally deal with, and I just want to make it easier to have that starting line set, as you'll see. Syntax off. Remember all those colors whenever I was in the password file and my eyes started bleeding? Syntax off turns that off. Okay, so I don't have that mess, glaring at me in the face every time. Oh, and shoot, I should have probably been advancing these things. Okay, so syntax off. Every time I go into VI and Vim, it's off. It's just normal white and black text the way I like it. All right, so this next one.
Yeah, I have a similar complaint about those colors because some of them do not have good contrast, and they'll give you real eye strain trying to read them.
Correct. I agree. All right, so this next one, the NN or whatever the hell that is, that's normal mode, non-recursive map. So in normal mode, that is another way of saying command mode. Remember, VI and Vim is mode oriented or modal. So in command mode, I am setting up a key sequence of / to run a : no H followed by the return key. If you recall, : no H turns off highlighting. So instead of having to go through the key sequence of a : no H every time I want to turn off highlights because I did some kind of search or substitute, I can just hit / and it all turns off real quick and easy. It's just a quick double tap on that / key and they're gone. Okay. IMAP, input mode. This one is recursive, meaning it will invoke another map if it matches the sequence. Okay. So while I'm in text input mode, I can hit / right square brace, which is going to hit escape or virtually hit escape, taking me from input mode to command mode to run the map on the previous line //, which turns off highlighting, followed by a, which is append after cursor. So basically, I'm doing what my / did from text input mode. I drop out of text input mode to command mode for just a microsecond, and then it puts me back in with that lowercase a appending after the cursor. So whether I'm in command mode or text input mode, I can quickly turn off highlighting. I just have to remember what mode I'm in for what key sequence I need to do. But realize because it's a recursive map, it allows recursion. This / is calling this line up here to execute what needs to be done. Okay. And then finally, Input mode, non-recursive map, meaning it's not going to call other maps if something happens to match. In text input mode, right square brace is going to hit escape followed by a :R bang date with some parameters to specify month, day, and year, followed by the return key. Now, if you recall, when I do a :R bang and do a shell escape to grab the output, it puts that output on the line below the one I was on. So what I do is then hit K to kick up a line or to go up a line in my document, a Shift J to join the two lines together, followed by a Shift A to append to end of line. So while I may drop to command mode for a microsecond, I get placed back into text input mode. And I'm going to show you some examples of what these capabilities can do for you. So here I am. I'm going to start and create a program called xall. Xall I always use to turn on execute permissions for my files in my personal bin directory so that I don't have to do change mode on them every time. I can just say xall and be done. I like less typing personally. It's kind of one of those things. I hate typing too much and I hate having to type a lot if I don't need to. So I make things easier for me. So I'm in xall. I type I for insert. Notice I'm in insert mode, that little flag down at the bottom because I like show mode. I type kprog and I hit enter. And when I hit enter, because that's an abbreviation, it takes the short kprog and abbreviates that out to the long, which is #bang user bin ksh. I then start my comment block, and this file was written by DLB, and when I hit enter, it expands that out to Daniel L. Backus. I type, continue on with my comment block. This program was written on, and then I hit right square brace, and when I hit that the second time, it adds in the date, March 1st, 2020. And again, because that mapping ended with a Shift A, it jumps me to the end of that line where I would expect my cursor to be and allows me to automatically continue on in my document, finishing out my document. So for everything in my personal bin directory, this is command substitution, anything that doesn't have a dot in the file name, because if it's a .c or a .f77 or something along that line, it's a compiled program. I don't want to put execute permissions on a source file. I just want that on my shell scripts. Source files are going to have a dot in the name somewhere. So for anything that doesn't have a dot in it, it's going to iterate through in a for loop, check to see if it's executable. If it's not executable, it is going to give me the file name and change it so that it's 755. Read, write, execute for the owner, read, execute for group, and read, execute for other or world, whatever you want to call it. All right, so I save that. Now, because xall isn't executable yet, this one I have to manually change 755 on, and then when I touch 3 other files just to test the execution of the program, when I say xall, it's going to give me my list of what it changed, and when I look with ls-l, sure enough, 755 for file 1, 2, and 3, and because that was just a test, I can then remove the 3 files and be done. But xall works. So my little shortcuts can, help me get my comment blocks set up quickly and easily, and make it, again, far less typing to have to deal with. Okay, now another advanced feature in VI, and this is something that's been capable of being done since 1976 when Bill Joy wrote VI itself, as an enhancement in visual interface around the EX editor, is copying and pasting between files. There is one generic unnamed buffer that I talked about way back when I talked about copy and paste. There are 26 named buffers. They are the letters of the alphabet, A through Z. The lowercase letter, if you use it, will destroy anything that was currently in that buffer, replacing it with the new contents from your yank or your delete command, depending upon whether you're doing copy paste or cut and paste. To name a buffer that you want to use, you hit the double quote mark before the letter that you want to use. You must remain in VI for named buffers to work. If you exit VI, like a :Q, it's going to forget the contents of that buffer because the program ended. You cannot exit VI for this to work. To move between files within VI, you can use the :E command. The exe command allows you to edit another file without leaving ex or VI. You can use :E # to return to the previous file you were in. It's along the line of those special characters like the $ for the last line or % to represent every line of a file. Before you use :E, you must do a :W or $W exclamation point if you've modified the file you're in. You have to save it because you're leaving it temporarily and then maybe come back to paste into that file. All right.
So that's like a subtle difference between the normal write quit and then just the normal write.
Yes, you want to do a
You
write.
don't want to quit them.
Yeah,
right.
You can't quit. Otherwise, the named buffers and the contents of the unnamed buffer go away. You're correct. Right. All right. So you then have to paste the contents in the name buffer. Before you do the lowercase p or capital P to paste, you have to rename the buffer. So it would be double quote and whatever letter you're going to use. Again, if you use a D command to delete, you're doing a cut and paste as opposed to a copy and paste, but the mechanic is exactly the same. So here's an example. I'm starting a new program that I've called tester. Okay, brand new document, new file, nothing in it. I hit I for insert and I do my kprog and my comment block, and I'm ready to go get some contents of a different program that I know certain blocks of code I'm going to want to use in this one. All right, so I hit escape and then I hit :E and I want to edit from my home directory ~bin/rgrep. That's the file I want to go into to grab the stuff I know I'm going to want. However, I forgot to do a :W. And if you forget to do that, it's going to tell you, hey, you idiot, no write since your last change. If you really want to edit that file and lose all your changes, you can do a :E bang and edit that other file. But what should you really do here? Damn it, I forgot to save. Right? So I do a quick :W to save my changes. I then do the :E ~bin/rgrep, and here I am in rgrep. So I go down to line 17, where I'm going to want to use this block of code. All right. Once I'm where I want to be, I use double quote lowercase p to name the buffer P, the one I want to use. I follow that by a 6YY to copy 6 lines from the line I'm on. So that's basically the line I'm on with this comment block down to this blank line. Those get placed into the buffer P. All right. I then move to another part of the file where I've got another block of code I want. I hit double quote capital P. Anything I put in with a capital letter is going to get appended to the contents of that buffer instead of overwritten. Remember, lowercase overwrites the contents. The capital letter appends more into that buffer. So I hit 14YY and I append 14 more lines into the buffer P. All right. I then do a :E pound to go back to my last file that I was in. So here I am. I'm back in tester. I hit double quote P to name the buffer P, and then one more P to paste it. Now, when I'm doing copy and paste between files, I always use the buffer P because I'm going to have to hit P anyway to paste. So my finger's already over that key ready to go. So that's just my personal preference. I don't care which letter of the alphabet you use, or you could use all of them if you do a lot of copies that you're pulling from different sections of a program on. You just have to name the buffer followed by a P or a capital P. My preference is just the buffer P because I'm already there. All right. But it pastes the stuff I grabbed from the other document into this file. And this
I've read that at one time VI was going to have the capability to have multiple files open simultaneously, and then the author had a hard disk crash, and he basically which meant he had to go back to backups, and he never got around to rewriting that functionality again.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you. All right, so that's copy and paste. And oh, by the way, sudo don't. Yes, my rant continues. Do not use sudo for non-admins. Here's the situation. Going back to the last example we had with sudo, I can use rvim to edit one of 3 files under home Oracle comp, file 1, file 2, or file 3 as the user test user. We know this. I've already shown you can get in here, so what's the big deal? Well, while rvim may not allow you to do shell escapes, rvim will allow you to edit other files with a :E. I can say :E/etc/password, and I'm in, and dear God, there's syntax again.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And yeah, I can edit the user ID number for test user, and oh yeah, I wrote it.
Wow.
There is no safe way to allow a non-admin to edit files through sudo. Sudo is not for non-admins. Not. It's just a personal pet peeve of mine. Only people who do root, have root access, and can be trusted with root access should be using sudo, in my opinion. I hate it. It is not secure. Okay?
Back in '89, I was working in a small Unix shop, and the shared system administration duties with the other programmer were just 2 of us, and he did not at that time understand how to use group permissions.
Mm-hmm.
So he set up all the users with the same user ID.
Oh my.
So they were all running it basically as the same user. Well, the problem is we also had it configured so there was limits on how much disk storage space any one user could use, which means that as they started adding more office staff, they started getting people writing stuff and then trying to save it and being told, oh, you've exceeded your limits. You can't save this.
Yeah, because everyone had the same user ID. It was a collective quota.
That's right. So then
Okay.
you had to go back and assign everybody separate user IDs and get the permission set up properly.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a mess to have to clean up. Okay, so that pretty much does the bulk of my discussion about VI. I have a couple of other things I do want to talk about just real quick, and I know we're over time by a bit, but it shouldn't take much longer.
Since we're not at Vaco, I mean, the 8 o'clock limit was really kind
Oh,
of
I know.
imposed by when they need to leave. So as long as you want to run,
I've got
people
like
can drop off
30-ish.
when they need.
I got
Yeah,
30-ish slides, and if you want to drop, feel free, but it's going to be pretty quick from here on out, guys.
you're good to go.
Cool.
Yeah,
So,
thanks, Dan. I am going to have to drop off, but thanks again for doing this. I love it.
oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Ross. Talk to
Yeah,
you
man.
sometime later.
All right, dude. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so people sometimes ask me why I like KSH over Bash. The partial truth is, and this is what I normally give people, is that I'm old, cranky, and don't want to have to learn something new. The full answer is that I know VI, and I don't want to have to explain that answer because I'm old and cranky and it takes too long. Okay? But since I've already gone through all this stuff with VI with you guys, I think you're going to understand, because I'm so familiar with VI, my joy of using the Corn shell. So I use exec to replace bash with KSH. So if you're not familiar with exec, it executes this new command replacing the current command running. So bash is gone at this point once I hit enter. I set the editor variable to VI and I export it, and from here on out it's just like I'm in a VI session, only I'm at the command line. The only difference is when you're in KSH, you start out in text input mode, you don't start in command mode. So I type in a command, a little for loop here, because I do this kind of stuff all the time. I'm always doing for loops and while loops to do stuff because I'm lazy. Why do it iteratively when I can build a loop around it and make it do what I need it to do? So I want to set up 3 new users, R. Parham, S. Lines, and R. Miller. Ross, the guy that just left, is R. Miller, just so you know. These are guys I work with. So I build a for loop around their usernames, and I do a group add, a user add, and a password command for each user. And it's just going to, ask me what the password should be for each one of these guys. Except for, oh crap, I put a -G option on group add, and that's not syntactically correct. Damn it. My group's not there. So since the group's not there, user add doesn't work because the group I'm specifying the default group should be for that user doesn't exist. So everything basically blew up in my face. Crap. All right, so I hit escape to go into command mode because I start out in text input mode, and I hit K to kick up a line. This recalls my last command. And so here I am. There's my last command. Notice the Control J character. That's the return key. All right, that's the enters that you would see up above when I built my for loop. And I can hit 8 capital W to jump 8 words, space separated, over to that -G guy. And I can do a D Shift W to delete 1 white space separated word, and then I hit enter. My line's been edited. I've cleared the error when I hit editor or hit enter, excuse me. It's going to tell me changing password for user R Parham, which was the first user in my for loop. I type in the password twice. It moves on to S Lines. I type in the password twice. It moves on to R Miller. I type in the password twice. And 3 user accounts are set up in a matter of a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds. Not even a minute probably if I'm typing the passwords quickly enough. All right, and I do a grep on the wheel group and Etsy group, and yes, R Parham, S Lines, and R Miller are all in there. Great. I can also search through my command history. I can hit escape to get into command mode, type a /4. So this is searching through my history for the keyword for, and it's going to pull up the most closely run for command, and I can use N or capital N to search through my shell history for the next or previous occurrences in case I skip past it on accident, in this case of for loops. So I hit enter and I pull up the last for loop, and from here I can hit V to go into visual mode. This throws you in a true kind of VI-ish session, so you can visually see it a lot cleaner and better than all on that same line. So I can hit J a couple of times to go down to the group add command, and I can hit DD to delete it. I can hit 4L, which puts my cursor on the A in user add, and I can do a an 8CW to get rid of what I don't want, replacing it with the word del to add in what I do want. I can then jump down a line with J, do another DD, and I've modified my for loop to now do a quick set of user del commands. When I hit :WQ or :X or Shift ZZ or whatever it is to write and quit this visual session, it goes out and runs. Notice it spits my command here, and then I just get my prompt back because user del doesn't have any output. I check the wheel group again, and I'm the only one in there. They've been deleted. I can quickly recall commands, edit those commands, and execute them because I'm fairly familiar with VI. Okay, that's the power of the Corn shell for me, is being able to quickly manipulate past commands and run something new quickly because I have something close to what I want. Okay.
So that's something you can do in Corn that you cannot do in Bash?
I do not know of a way to set my editor to VI in Bash. Not that I've ever looked, because I'm old and cranky and I don't want to have to learn something new. I know what works in KSH, and that's what I use.
Right.
Okay. All right. Another question I occasionally get: what do you edit files with in Windows since Windows doesn't have VI? Who says there isn't VI for Windows? Some nice gentleman over in Germany has written VI for Windows, winvi.de, If you want the English version, do a /en at the end of the URL and get your own copy of WinVI32.exe. I've been using this thing for better than 2 decades now. I edit files in Windows with VI. Now, it's not exactly like VI. There's a couple little things that are a bit different, but it's close enough. Okay. So if I've got a text document, a .java document, or anything else, that I'm wanting to work on, I'm doing it in VI, no matter what system I'm on. All right. So you can go up to options and you go to settings, and here's the settings. And one thing I don't like about WinVI32 that I always have to turn off is by default, the initial insert mode is checked, meaning when you get into WinVI32, you're initially in insert mode. I'm so used to always getting in command mode that it annoys me that I'm in insert mode by default. So I uncheck this guy right here, make sure that I hit permanent setting so that it saves it for every time I invoke this thing, and then hit apply or OK. And you can go in here and you can change colors and fonts and language and all that other kind of stuff. But that's the one thing that annoys me about this. I always have to uncheck that and then permanently save the setting so that when I get in, it's like a normal kind of VI-ish session. Whoops, hold on. Notice in here, it's got the normal tildes going down the side of the screen that's visually displaying, hey, this is past your end of file marker. It's going to allow you to do a $%s for global substitute and replace, slashes and question marks for searches. It's pretty much VI on a Windows platform. I've used it, like I said, for decades. Oh, and one other thing, if you need to change from ASCII to EBCDIC, it can actually change ASCII to EBCDIC for you. Not that everybody, deals with IBM systems these days, but if you need to convert, here's a way to quickly and automatically convert it for you. Or if you want to see it in hex, you can get it into hexadecimal notation, whatever you want to do. It's kind of quick and easy that way as well. All right. One final source of help with Vim. There is a program out there on Linux systems, if you've loaded Vim, called Vim Tutor. Vim Tutor is a program that allows you to edit a document, and while you're editing, reading this document, it's telling you how to do things in Vim and teaching you how to do them. So when you type Vim Tutor, it throws you into this document, and if you read down here through this, when you get down to this last paragraph, it tells you, hey, start hitting the J key enough times for you to see the lesson 1.1. And it walks you through verbally the different commands and the different capabilities and teaches you how to use this editor in ways that, honestly, I don't have time to talk about. You can, leave this document, and the next time you say Vim Tutor, you pick up where you left off. I think there's an option to basically clear your progress and bring you back to the very beginning of this document. It's very useful if this is a editor you choose or care to learn how to use better or more. And what you learn about in Vim, most of which can be directly applied to the older, clunkier VI command. I just personally prefer VI because pretty much any box I've ever walked up to in the last 30 years has had VI on it for me to edit files. It may have had Vim, it may not have had Vim. It may have had Nano or Pico or Emacs or whatever. I don't know. It may or may not be there, but since 1978, 79, pretty much VI has been on every Unix box out there. It works. And I'm a programmer. That's what my degree is. I've got a bachelor's in computer science and mathematics. I had 4 or 5 years of programming in college, and I just got used to it because it's quick for a programmer to get in and make quick edits and fixes to programs where you typoed something or forgot a semicolon somewhere. All right, so real quick, just a few things to remember. :W saves. Never quit, damn it. Again, the bang character's other name is damn it. And VI is the editor of the devil. And in case you didn't catch it, VI is Roman numeral 6. So I know if you have to explain the joke, it isn't funny, but sometimes people don't get it. All right, and I hope you all learned something new. That's all I've got.
That was great. Thank you.
Great
Yeah.
presentation.
I'm glad you guys liked it. Again, I hope you learned something new tonight, even if it's about sudoers and not VI. I don't care. If you've been to anything I've ever taught, all I care about is that you learn something new.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Have you seen that XKCD cartoon where one stick figure says to the other, "Make me a sandwich," and the other says, "Make it yourself." And then he says, "Sudo, make me a sandwich," and the guy says, "Okay."
Yeah, I've seen that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I actually have that sticker at my desk. If I ever go back to my desk, you can come by and check it out, Dan.
Oh, I sure will, Brad.
Well, this is good. Thanks, Dan.
Of
It was
course.
awesome.
I'm glad you liked it. Again, I'm going to try and get this recording over or somehow up to Vince so that it can be made available through the YouTube channel. If you missed something or you want to go back over something, feel free to watch it. If you have any questions, I am a member of the Google group for the NLUG now. So I'm sure I'll get an update. If you've got a question, feel free to post there. If I've got time, I'll answer back.
That sounds great. And just to re-announce, if you joined late or you didn't see the message in chat, there's a cheat sheet that goes along with this that has all those shortcuts on it. We've got that on the NLUG website. Just go to nlug.org/vi, and that's on PDF.
Okay, well, I hope everybody has a great rest of your evening and a great rest of your week. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.